the second round, and after the Game 7 loss, Paul George reportedly addressed his teammates, but it didn't go very well. According to Shams Charania, George was urging the team to stay committed and for everyone to return next season to make another title run, but his comments were met with some eye rolls and bewilderment. I love that word, particularly because of his poor play in the series. Shams also noted that George had multiple verbal spats with teammates during the postseason, and the Clippers players reportedly felt he wasn't holding himself accountable. Remember, after Game 7, Paul George told the media, "We never felt like this was a championship or bust year for us." So probably wasn't the person to give that speech. I don't know who the speech giver is in that locker room because, Kawhi is not very vocal.
I'll say it again. Not be surprised if they move off Paul George immediately. I will not be surprised. Paul George and draft picks, they've got depth here. You can get players. I'm not going to be surprised if they... Don't have it sourced, kind of sourced. Don't be shocked if they lose patience quickly with Paul George, because as you and I know, people are what they are in the playoffs. We try to talk ourselves that Harden will now rise.
We do it every playoff run, too, because they'll have a game and we're like, here it is. Nope. And listen, Paul George is a great player, but the Clippers are not built for the regular season. This is a team that is built to win a championship. That is the expectations. That's the expectations of the owner, Steve Ballmer. That's the expectations of the coach, Doc Rivers. Kawhi Leonard. Because everyone's down on Kawhi Leonard right now like he didn't just win a championship last year.
I got no issues with Kawhi.
I mean, he didn't have a great performance, but...
Yeah, he had a bad last game performance, but I got no issues with Kawhi. I'm still all in on the Kawhi.
This team is a team that needs someone who can perform in the postseason.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of evidence that might not be the case.
Joy Taylor with news. Well, push for the Oakland Raiders, who had left before, to move to Las Vegas. Jerry Jones has great business instincts. It's nothing against Oakland, but the stadium was antiquated. The A's have tried to leave. The Warriors just left over to the other side of town. And in the end... last night felt right. John Gruden in Vegas. Raiders rebel brand in Vegas. The Rebels, the running Rebels were outlaws. The Raiders are outlaws, and every league needs a villain and a rebel and a maverick and the guys that push back. The stadium, Raider colors, reflective to the City of Lights. I don't think I've ever seen a first game in a city that felt more right. I wanted to go to Vegas. I wanted to hop on a jet and go to Vegas. I started lighting up cigars and drinking cocktails. It felt perfect. Vegas is lights, action, and juice. And the Raiders' offense and Derek Carr slinging it and Gruden talking felt absolutely right. Everything worked. The Raiders are actually a very good brand. They've been down, though, for a long time. I said this years ago about the Warriors. The Bay Area was always a great NBA town. It just were bad for 15, 20 years. Like some cities in this country are struggling to keep up. They can't get legislation passed. They can't get a new stadium. They have funding issues. It happens. I lived in a city called Hartford. It was dying. They couldn't keep their NHL franchise. It's not up to the NHL to help cities get their economies right. But Vegas is sun. It's no state tax. It's entertainment. It's a food and entertainment mecca. And the NFL is #1 entertainment ticket on 5 different American networks. It's the only TV show in America that's #1 on 5 different networks. Vegas and the Raiders is right. And not all these expansions are. We all know the Chargers felt more like San Diego than Los Angeles. Maybe they always will. There are times we have moved teams. It wouldn't feel right if Philadelphia's Eagles left or if Chicago's Bulls left. But this is the perfect move. This divorce works. This is it. That stadium looks like the Raiders. That city feels like the Raiders. And, by the way, one of the things I like about Las Vegas having an NFL team, because I always fought for this. I didn't think baseball would work there. I'm surprised hockey's worked there. I never was for NBA. Too many games, not a big corporate headquarter. But the NFL is 8 Sundays. And ask yourself, the NFL is a fall and winter league. It gets really cold in most of America by November 15th. If you live in Kansas City, you live in Denver, you look at the Raiders' schedule, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, many of the great teams, most of them in this league are in bad weather. Oh, honey, let's go to a road game this year for our local team. Any place better than Vegas? Any place you're going to get better food, better room for the price, and a cheaper flight than Vegas? The answer is no. That was a home run debut. How many of you watched that game like Joy and thought, God, I miss Vegas? That's great for the city. It's great for the team. It was great for Gruden. I'm watching this locker room stuff last night. That's one of the best debuts I've ever seen by any team. Relocating, moving, expansion. That's as good as it gets. Joy with the news.
No.
Turn on the news. This is the Herdline News.
Gruden is such an entertainer, too.
What's that?
Gruden is such an entertainer.
Well, when I worked with him at ESPN, and I told people this all the time, is that the Monday Night Football crews, and this is nothing personal, but when he left, there was a hole. I mean, Gruden, it was just Tirico, Gruden, and John Talk, and they didn't need a third guy. They didn't need like a guy in the crowd. Like John Gruden just took the oxygen out of the room.
He's just a special, unique, one-of-a-kind personality.
He is. I mean, it's just, you can tell something. And by the way, the NFL has got a bunch of old, boring coaches. They need Gruden. Gruden's great for the NFL business.
Because he's old school and he's full of life. Full of life. So Justin Herbert was impressive in his NFL debut on Sunday. And even though head coach Anthony Lynn said after the game that Tyrod Taylor will be the starter if healthy, Lynn did think this was a good starting point for the rookie.
I thought he came in and gave us a chance to win. But there was a lot that you don't know. There's a lot, that we didn't get done with Justin on the field yesterday. Mm-hmm. He's a backup for a reason. He's a rookie, and there's a lot that he needs to learn about this game. I know we can win with either quarterback, but the veteran quarterback right now gives us the best chance to win.
Well, Tyrod was reportedly out because of an adverse reaction to a pain-killing injection to treat a rib injury. He's said to be recovering well and got treatment at the hospital. Herbert was 22 of 33 for one passing touchdown, one rushing touchdown.
Against the Super Bowl champs.
Against the Super Bowl defending champion.
And given 5 minutes heads up with no first-team reps all week.
Look,
you look big.
I have a lot of respect for Anthony Lynn, and I have a lot of respect for Tyrod Taylor. But after seeing Herbert, and as you started the show by saying, with quarterbacks, your eyes don't lie to you. Like, you see what you see. You can make up whatever narrative you want, but at the end of the day, how they perform, you can see if it's them or if it's someone else, right? Very quickly. Justin Herbert having that performance, if Tyrod gets back out there and has one or two bad weeks in a row, that's just how it's going to go. We've seen him now.
Herbert just looked big and athletic. By the way, he looked like a first-round quarterback. You're like, oh, he's bigger than Tyrod. And he's got a bigger arm than Tyrod. And he's a little fat. He's like, that's what a first-round quarterback. Now, they don't all look like that.
Right.
But that's what they look like. You're like Joe Burrow, when you look at him, you're like, oh, he just moved. He makes guys miss. He throws 60 times. He's not over. First-round quarterbacks, even if they're erratic in their first start, they shouldn't look completely physically overwhelmed. Like Baker
or
at times.
mentally overwhelmed.
Right.
Where they're throwing 6 interceptions.
Like, I just thought the eye test was Herbert may be erratic and may miss some audibles that Tyrod would pick up, but God, he looked big.
The other issue is we kind of know what Tyrod is, which is a good quarterback, playoff level quarterback, but we sort of know where he is in the league at this point. What Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow have is hope and potential. Yeah. And that is an intangible that someone like Tyrod Taylor doesn't have. Right. So when you see Justin Herbert out there and you're like, wow, he's got 5 minutes to find out he was starting. He's rookie quarterback. Did a pretty decent job against the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, if that wasn't Justin Herbert, we'd be like, all right, well, who is this guy? This is 5 years in the league. This is what it is. He's a rookie, and that was his first start. So the potential that he could reach plays a role in whether people are going to want him out there again. So Tyrod cannot have a couple bad weeks, or that's how it's going to go. Yeah. So the Eagles have not gotten off to a good start this season. They lost both of their games by double digits, and former Eagle Brian Westbrook says there's plenty of reasons for the team's 0-2 start, but Carson Wentz is going to have to be the one to turn things around.
As bad as they were against Washington, things got worse. And, a lot has to land at the feet of the quarterback. Of course, a lot has to land at the feet of Doug Peterson, Jim Schwartz. I mean, there's a lot of blame to go around. I don't see anything that's going to change outside of Carson being the guy that again, I said it last week, I'll say it again this week. Unless he can be Patrick Mahomes-like, then we don't have a chance.
he's probably right, but the thing about being Patrick Mahomes-like is there's only one Patrick Mahomes.
Well, and also, there is some good news here. If we both acknowledge Wentz is a mess.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones, Dwayne Haskins are, at best, developing. I'm not sure if they're emerging. They're developing, and the Cowboys right now are lucky to be 1-1. So you've got time here. This is not a division where, like, if you're Arizona and you're 0-2 and you watch the Rams and Seahawks, you're like, we can't be 0-3 or it's done. Philadelphia's got a long runway here to figure out what the issue is, and I don't know what it is, but there's time here. This is not urgent. They don't have to win Sunday.
Well, we also know that Carson Wentz has the ability to put the team on his back because he did it last year.
Yeah.
Now, if he's the same guy this year, like that's the question. We don't really know what's going on with the Eagles. But as you mentioned, everyone's kind of got to calm down. We feel like we have a ton of information on everybody, but we really don't. It's only week 2. It feels like we've watched so much football because we're all just consuming as much as we can because we missed it so much. But it's only week 2. And the NFC East is what it is. They have the Bengals this week.
That's a good at home. It's a nice place to be.
That's a good get back game. And